Hey guys, happy Thursday and welcome to my tea time. I hope you guys are doing well. Cheers. Cheers. This matches my Buddha painting. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing well and I hope your week is going well as well. There has been so much that has been going on this week on the news and maybe in like your personal lives, but I know going on Yahoo and just putting on the TV, there's been so much going on with like what's going on in Texas and in other parts of the world. And I wanted to actually do a prayer to start off my tea time. Hey, for the world, for everybody who's involved right now in the shootings of Texas, and who's feeling pain or grief. Earlier today, I had a phone call with one of my grandpa, which I haven't really had a connection with. That's another long story for like another tea time. But it really put me in that state of just sadness and pain and grief as he's on his last days. And yeah, I just wanted to do a prayer for that. So if you're watching afterwards or if you're watching during tea time, like hi, and join me on this prayer. So wherever you're at, just close your eyes and let's ask universe and God to be present with us. So God, universe, thank you for this moment. Thank you for this space. Thank you for everything that you've given us. And in this moment, I would love to ask for the people who are feeling pain and frustration and sadness and anger. I ask that there may be space for them to feel all these feelings. That they may have a support system, that they may be heard, and that, again, they may express every single feeling that's coming through their body. May they grieve, may they share their frustration, and sending prayers to the people who are taking action and trying to change the way the system works. May they find strength. May they find courage. And may they not give up. And for everyone else in the world who is watching the news, who is going through some stuff in their personal lives, may they also find this space for them to feel, for them to express, for them to grieve. May they find the support system where they can share and where they can feel loved and heard. And through everything, may they also find your love and may they find your guidance. So amen, ram ram, little prayer. Hey! So yeah, I felt really called to do that little prayer. And if there's something that you wanted to add, feel free to add it when you're praying, after you listen to this. So hey! So yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. So yeah, let's catch up, right? Doing a little transition. I feel like I had a calling to do this prayer. I couldn't just show up here and be, hi, how are you guys? It was really itching at me to do. But yeah, so let's catch up. Like, what have you guys been up to? How's life? It's been about 2 months since I've been on this tea time. And there's a lot of stuff going on in my own personal life where I needed to take a break from social media, and not just social media overall, but also my own personal business life coaching account. And sometimes that is so needed. Not sometimes. I'm a really believer that we need to take our breaks, especially if our work involves helping or guiding others, or involves sharing our own personal lives. You know what? I really think that just anybody who works needs personal space, needs a break. And we need to reconnect and get grounded and get clear with ourselves and our intentions, and come back to this space like clear-minded. So one of the reasons why I also took off like 2 months was because I was realizing that in the mornings I was waking up, as soon as I woke up, it was this feeling of, what can I share today on my social media? As a life coach, as a meditation teacher, as doing my tea times, what can I share? What have I learned? And there was like this need and this like worrisome. And in that moment I was like, you know what? I think it's time for me to take a break. Hey. And I did. And again, it's much needed. And during my break I was realizing too, and it's something that of course like I've realized before it's not the first time that I've done like a social media detox, but it's something that just always pops up when I take these breaks, how social media is also noise, is also noise that we already have in our everyday lives, and social media is added more to it. So I was watching, I don't know if you guys have read the book or have heard the book, I think it's Ready Player One by, I forgot his name, but there's a movie on HBO, and that's what it's called. And it's basically this guy it's this world where everybody is living in a virtual world. They put on like these glasses, and it's kind of what's happening now in a way, where you put on these glasses and you go into another world, and there's different universes and dimensions, and you could be whoever you want, and you meet like random people from all around the world, and there's different games and different places, and you disconnect from the world, like our physical world that we're living in. And I was watching that, and I was just thinking like, oh, social media is a little bit like that, where we scroll endlessly at the end of the night, in the mornings, and with each post, with each caption that we read, or with each post that we see or that we post ourselves, we kind of get stuck in a virtual world or imagination of our own thoughts with it. And not saying that it's good or bad, but it was just like this random observation, like, oh, like it's added noise. And sometimes it hits us where we see somebody else who looks so successful, or we see somebody else who is living their best life, or we see somebody else who, whatever it is, and just subconsciously we compare, or we go on to like the shoulds, or like our own self-doubts, or imposter syndrome kicks in. So it's super interesting, because it was just that realization, or that re-realization, if that's even a word, of just how it's added noise. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have taken like any social media detoxes, like how has that worked out for you guys, and what did you guys realize, or what did you guys feel during it? And it felt free too. So I took 2 months, and it felt free because it was more of also connecting with my life, with the people in my life, and whatever was going on in my personal life. When I decided to take a break, I decided to really step into it and like feel it and reflect on it, because there's so much also that I'll probably do tea times from here on out about it. Hey! So yeah, thank you guys for joining. So that's something that I really wanted to share. What is it called again? Ready Player One. Watch it on HBO. Read it on... There's a book. So read it and let me know if that's something that you guys are interested in. Or yeah. But yeah. Yeah, even with the detox too, it's something that I'm planning to do more often. Because again, it does feel free. It feels also the clarity part. That's a huge one, which I would totally encourage everybody to take. Is that you get so much clarity added to your life because you're not on social media and you're not endlessly scrolling, where you gain clarity, or you gain you also check up on yourself, like where you're at overall. And I've heard people say how they don't have time to read a book or to play guitar, or they don't have time to like explore their hobbies. And it's so interesting because if we go back and take a look on how much time we spend on social media, it's a lot. Like, we spend hours on social media throughout the day, whether that's in the morning, during work, our lunch, after work, right before bed. And when you add all of those hours together, it's like more than 2 hours. It's sometimes more time that we spend more time sometimes on social media than we would spend like watching TV. So it's like, if you just notice that and remove yourself from being on social media so much, and maybe focus on the book, focus on journaling, focus on maybe a hobby that you want to do, you realize that you actually do have time. So, hey Samantha, I could definitely use a social media detox. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Totally encourage it. Totally encourage it. And then something else too that I was watching this during these last 2 months, I haven't finished watching it, but it's Brene Brown, The Atlas of the Heart on HBO. Have you heard of it? It's a really, really, really good show. As soon as I saw like the first episode, I texted my closest friends to like watch it. And she literally talks about being human and expressing the feelings that humans express, like frustration, anxiety, depression, being overwhelmed, being stressed. And she's so good at like how she expresses what she's trying to express. And there's a lot of stuff too, just from watching those 2 episodes, that made me step back on my own stuff and like reflect a little bit. And one of the things, there's 2 things that I actually want to share from that series. And one of them was that she expressed how being stressed and being overwhelmed are 2 totally different things. And before I get into like the difference of those 2 things, the things that she expressed on the series was how it's so important for us to find vocabulary to how we feel. Hey! To how we feel. And to find vocabulary and words and sentences, again, to express how we feel, because it helps so much for us to speak up and for us to even just express it ourselves. So she mentioned how being stressed and being overwhelmed are different. How when you're stressed, you can still function. And of course, like, you still feel the feelings of like, like, you know what stress feels like. But you can still function. And with being overwhelmed, when you're overwhelmed, you can't function. Your body literally just shuts down. And she shares how it's important to know when we're feeling stressed and when we're feeling overwhelmed, so we can express to others, like, hey, right now I'm feeling stressed, but I can do this. Like, I know what to do, or like, I can still show up. And when we feel overwhelmed, so we can express it to the people that we love or the people that we even work with, like, hey, right now we need to take a break. Like, I feel overwhelmed and I can't function. And I was like, oh my God, like, yes, it's so, it just became like an aha moment in a way. And another thing that she mentioned too that I was like, oh man, is I'm like trying not to express so many backstories. But another thing that she also mentioned was that when we are having conversations with others, to believe them. And she was sharing how most of us, when we hear stories or when we hear other people's experiences, if they don't fit within our experience, if those stories or their experience doesn't fit within our experience or doesn't fit within what we believe or what we value, not value, what we believe in, how we don't believe in them. And she's like, just because we haven't experienced it or because we haven't lived through it, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And I would love to go back and express more of it, but that was also an aha moment, because there's been moments in conversations where it's like, Like, that's an interesting story, and because I haven't lived through it or haven't experienced it, like, I reflect on it in some other way, but there's still like a I wonder, not in a way of like I'm doubting them or I'm being suspicious, but in a way of like, like I feel disconnected. Maybe that's the word that I can use. Like, there's a disconnection from it. And when she said that, I was like, oh, I'm aware that I do that. I'm aware that when some stories don't resonate, like, there's a disconnection. And my own core belief is like, I always think, and yeah, I always love to believe that people are trying their best, like, no matter what it is, like, they're trying their best. And it was interesting because in that moment it was a bit of a contradiction within my own, where it's like, oh, I have this belief and I love to think that people are trying their best, and then when I heard that, it was like, oh, but I realize how sometimes I don't, and there's a judgment on my part. So, hey, how are you guys? So yeah, so I totally encourage you guys to watch Brene Brown, the Atlas of the Heart series, and let's talk about it. So, I actually was taking notes too, again, like, with stuff like that, I love to reflect on it, so I was taking notes, and the things that were tugging at me, I was like, oh yeah, like, okay, let me like ponder on this some more. But yeah. How are you? So that's basically what I wanted to talk about on my tea time. I did a live yesterday with Michael from Mindful Millennial Coaching, and go check it out. It was so touching for me to keep talking about the vibrant unknown and the whisper in our hearts, and to just keep sharing the message. Afterwards, I was reflecting how the first time that I talked about the vibrant unknown and the whisper in my heart was 2 years ago, and how there's so much that has happened that has made that conviction and this journey so much more stronger for me, and how much my passion has grown to share the message to others. So it's Alex, right? Brene Brown has a lot of great stuff on vulnerability. Yeah. She talks about vulnerability too on the HBO series. Totally encouraged to watch it. Let me see. Like I said, like, I had my notes on it. Let me see. Oh, there's another thing that she also mentioned about, and also like pondering out loud with you guys, so feel free to share anything that comes to your mind. But there's another thing that she mentioned, how she does not believe that we can't, you know how people share stories, and we always share, not always, but there's some of us that say, oh, I know exactly what you're going through, or I know how you're feeling, like I've been in your shoes before, or people try to fit into other people's shoes. So she shares on the series how she doesn't believe that. Hey, Susie. How she doesn't believe that. And she goes on to explain how we all have different educational backgrounds, financial status backgrounds. We have different experiences that we've grown up with, and even nationality, like, we're all different. And she was like, I can't be in somebody else's shoes who lives in a low income community or has their own experiences in their I can't say it. What's the word? Yeah, so she went in depth about it, and she gave an example about it, and it made me ponder, it made me think, because I had a conversation with a friend a while back where, like, doing this work and showing up to guide people to inner healing and to heal, I was like, oh, like, I wonder if I could ever work with people who are going through addiction. And my friend and I were talking about it, and I was like I've never experienced the depth of addiction or how that feels, or again, like, that whole experience, like, I've never been through it myself. Like, I wonder if I could be in their shoes. And through our conversation, it was like, well, like, I felt the depths of my sadness, the depths of my loneliness, the depths of to my own capacity of these feelings, right? And it's like, oh, maybe because I felt that some of the feelings, like I can relate to them in that space. And it was, again, like just pondering, right? And then hearing that, I was like, oh, maybe not. Like, I really enjoyed hearing that from her, where it's like, yeah, like maybe not. Like maybe, not that I can't work with them or work together with them, but maybe I just can't relate to them. And it's okay. For the same reasoning that, like, we all have our different experiences and our different journeys and even traumas too. So Alex said, different world experiences. Our experiences shape the way we view our world, and we all have unique stories. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Which is something that I also wanted to share in one of my tea times, was like the power of storytelling, where I love stories. I love hearing stories, and I also love sharing stories, and we learn so much from them. And even to be in that space to listen openly, listening open. I think I said that right. And just hearing what they have to say and being curious with it as well. And that's all we have to do is just listen with an open heart. And like you said, like we have unique stories, and we can also learn from these stories. And I know we, like, when you, there's stuff that I've heard, you know, like storytelling has been in our genes for such a long time. Like our ancestors used to tell stories, and it's still something that we all do today. And that's one of the things that I love so much about Brene Brown, where she's a storyteller, and the way that she shares and the way that she does her, like, writes her books, it's all through storytelling, and she shares her experiences. So she's fucking awesome. I love her. There's another story, like, this is probably like a Brene Brown, like, tea time, but there's another story that she shares where, I think it was like a talk that she did, and I think she also explained it in one of her books, where she said that she went out into the lake with her husband, and they were swimming, and they went pretty, like, into the water, and how they decided to come back, right? And her husband started swimming faster and faster and faster to get to shore. And the whole time while she's swimming back, like, she was getting in her head or in her ego or in her own space of, like, why is he swimming so fast? Like, am I ugly? Like, is it because I'm older? Am I not sexy enough? And she was getting into these stories in her head. And as soon as she got to the shore with her husband, like, she asked her husband, like, hey, like am I ugly? Am I not pretty? And basically sharing what was going on through her mind. And her husband was like, oh no, like, I got reminded how I almost drowned when I was younger, and the whole time I was in that space of anxiousness of wanting to get to the shore. And how that just cleared so much space on both of their ends, and they were able to come back together and spend, you know, time together. And the point of her for this is, like, the vulnerability of what goes on through our minds and sharing it with our loved ones, which is something that I'm still practicing as well. So Alex said, telling your story is powerful medicine. I believe most people just want to be seen and validated, and through storytelling we can be seen and validated. Yeah, I totally agree. There's a book that I'm writing about the vibrant unknown, and I didn't know that in the back of my mind I thought that my story or my experience didn't mean anything. And there was always, like, that block of, like, sharing my story or writing it, because it was like, oh, like, why does it matter? Or who am I to write something about my life? Like, who's gonna want to hear it? Or who am I? Maybe you guys have had the similar experience of, like, the who am I story of, like, who am I to do this? Who am I to share this? Who am I to express this? Or nobody's gonna want to hear it. And again, being in our head about it. And the other day I did this powerful meditation, and I had my journal with me and my pen, and after the meditation I let my hand just write, and what came through was how much I've learned through stories, how much I've gone through my own experience, and how my story means something, and how through my own story people can also learn how I've learned through other stories. And just from that space, I felt, like, so validated and so seen just from that meditation. But it's so true. It's so true. Yeah, so even that too, Alex, with what Brene Brown said is, like, being understood. like giving that space to hear, to openly hear, and to also believe when they're sharing the story, because we also want to be understood and we want to be trusted when we're sharing our stories. But yeah, so if you have anything else to share, I want to share that thing that I wrote. Let me get my notebook really quick. Maybe let's see, and I want to share this because I want to also encourage everybody who's watching, even during right now and like afterwards, to share your story, like to express your story, because we do learn so much from it. And you never know, like you never know who's listening to your story and whose heart you're gonna touch. Let me see. Let me look for it. Okay, so this is what I got from my meditation space. So I hope this serves for you guys, and I hope that it touches your heart as it touched mine. And yeah, and maybe I'll end it with this. So thank you guys for showing up to my tea time, and thank you, Alex, for sharing and for commenting. Oh, okay, so this is what I got through my meditation. So it's not egoic to want to help, guide, heal others. It's not egoic to think that you can do it through your own personal experiences. It's not egoic for you to want to share your life and your experiences to others. Your stories are valid, your stories are real, your stories are inspirational, your stories hold and share truth. Your stories are meant to be shared, heard, and read. You've learned so much through stories and listening and understanding others. Let and allow others to learn, listen, and understand you and your stories through writing and through this book. This desire in your heart is meant for a reason. So yeah, just a little reminder. So yeah, much love, guys. If anything arises for you through this tea time or even after when you're listening, let me know. Let's talk about it. So yeah, much love.